Both my grandparents were native speakers. Both of my parents were native speakers. Now, their experiences were interesting when they went to boarding school because they both attended boarding schools. Now, my father, he did not speak English until he was 11 years old, and that's because when he was sent to boarding school, he got that total immersion, English immersion. He went to Goodland first, and he did not know the language, and they were punished for speaking Choctaw. And he told stories about that kind of thing and being in trouble very often. But then my mother, but the way that affected him, which I thought was so totally interesting and unique, when he got older, then anytime he would run across somebody that he thought could understand Choctaw, he would speak Choctaw to them in a heartbeat. It's just, he really loved to talk to someone in Choctaw, and he would do it whenever he could. Now, my mother went the total opposite direction. So she goes to boarding school at the age of 4 when her mother passed away. And she went to St. Agnes when St. Agnes had a boarding school in Antlers. So it was a case of she had to speak English then. So when she would go home for the summers, then she said that was a confusing thing for her because they were teaching her English at boarding school. So she'd go home, Grandpa would continue to speak to her in Choctaw, and Granny would tell her, no, you speak English. And so she said she would hear Choctaw and she was supposed to speak English. So it was a really difficult thing for her. And so when she got older, she could hear people speak to her in Choctaw, and she was very fluent. She could read it, everything, but she would answer in English. As long as she knew they knew English, she'd understand perfectly but respond in English. But you know, the language really has also influenced my paintings. If you notice, there are a lot of my paintings that have words in them, and I think that comes from when I was a kid. I can remember sitting out on my grandparents' front porch at night, and they had no TV. They had a radio, but no TV. And your entertainment was to sit on the front porch, and people would sit and talk and tell stories. Well, I heard an awful lot of their stories was in Choctaw. And a lot of their stories must have been good and fun. They would laugh a lot, and I was constantly sitting next to my mother going, what did they say? What did they say? That was what I remember a lot of. So I think I do have a certain just fascination with the language too. I heard a lot of it. So it pops up in my artwork quite a bit. There's one with the Lord's Prayer in it in the background. That one has hymn number 48 in the background. Yeah, this is hymn 48 in the background, and this is the one that you can do to the tune of Amazing Grace, so a lot of people know it, and I think it's something that people can identify with easy. So that's one. This one has the Lord's Prayer in the background. I'm trying to memorize that. I can almost say it. I get about halfway through before I start repeating myself.